a week before Easter, I posted a short video explaining how the Church calculates the date of Easter. And I gave the simple formula that Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. And I'm delighted that at least one person watched the whole video, because she got in touch with me about a perceived problem. She is a teacher of the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, and she assigned to her students the task of figuring out when Easter was in the year of their birth, which is usually around 2008, and the formula worked extremely well. Then one of her students challenged her to do the same thing for the year of her birth, which was in 1962. And so she looked up the spring equinox, got Tuesday, March the 20th at 8:35 a.m. Toronto time, then looked up the full moon in March, and that was Wednesday, March the 21st at 2:56 a.m., and then confidently announced that Easter was on Sunday, March the 25th. Except it wasn't. The actual date of Easter was Sunday, April the 22nd, 1962. So how do we explain this anomaly? Is the formula wrong? Well, the formula is correct, but it has to be understood in a special way. And the special way is this, that the Church has defined the vernal equinox to be March the 21st. Now, depending on time zones, depending on how far away we are from a leap year, the actual date can be between March the 19th and March the 22nd, but for simplicity's sake, the Church has decided that the vernal equinox is March the 21st. The moons are even more complicated. In the 5th century BC, Metonic of Athens noticed that after 19 years, the moon and the sun cycles lock, and so it's possible to predict full moons just by looking at the full moon now, and you know that it will happen again in 19 years. This 19-year cycle, or Metonic cycle, was used to figure out the full moons. Worked fairly well, except of course when it doesn't. And that's why we had the calendrical reform in 1582, and a correction factor had to be produced. But once it was, tables of the full moon were produced for the next few thousand years. And the full moon that is associated with Easter is called the Paschal moon, and in 1962 the Paschal moon was on made it so that Easter was on Sunday, April the 22nd. Now, the whole idea was to get the moon back near Easter so that we would have the same kind of conditions as occurred around Passover, which was always on the full moon. It was the 14th day of Nisan. The 14th day of the month is the one that has the full moon on it. And so around the Catholic date of Easter, we tend to have a pretty full moon. Now, why would ancient peoples have festivals on a full moon? Well, one very obvious reason is that it makes it possible to go out at night and not stumble. You can keep up your festivities in a safe environment. You can see. And ancient peoples were, of course, much more attuned to nature than we are. We spend way too much time in front of our screens. We live in climate-controlled environments, and when the temperature deviates by more than a degree from what we like, we start to complain. We spend our days in malls, we have artificial lights, and we are fairly disconnected from nature. And that, I think, is something to worry about, something to correct by getting out, actually observing nature. And I'd like to end this short little talk with a passage from Anthony Esselin's book, Out of the Ashes, where he laments basically the destruction of Western civilization and our being detached from the world around us. So this is what Anthony Esolen says. I've asked my freshman honors students at college where in the sky the sun will be in the middle of the afternoon in September here in Rhode Island. They don't know. They are strangers to the world, but they certainly are not strangers to the lies and folly that are the stock in trade, as I have said, of mass entertainment, mass education, and mass politics. Things, in their beautiful and imposing integrity, do not easily bend to lies. A bull is a bull and not a cow. Grass is food for cattle, but not for man. A warbler is alive, but a rock is not. The 300-pound stone will not move for a little child, or a boy, or a feminist professor. Water expands when it freezes and will break anything unless you allow for that. Things are what they are. They know no slogans, and they do not lie, and they give witness to the glory of God.